Hey everybody, so today we are taking another look at Susan Shore's tinnitus device, and specifically we're going to talk about her crossover study design, why she used it, and the wonderful effects that we discovered from this specific study design. Also, we're going to be talking about something called a washout phase. Now, many people were skeptical of some of the statistical data in Susan Shore's research, and I will explain the reason of why this appeared. If you want to take a look at more information about Susan Shore's tinnitus device, you can take a look at some of the other videos on my channel. Now, in clinical research, a crossover study design is employed to evaluate the efficacy or effectiveness of interventions. And this method involves 2 or more periods of treatment where participants are randomly allocated to receive either the intervention or a control condition, such as placebo, in a sequential manner, or one after another. Between these treatment periods, there is a crucial phase which is known as the washout phase. The washout phase is designed to allow any effects of the intervention to dissipate or to disappear with time, ensuring that participants return to their baseline condition before commencing the subsequent treatment phase. This design is used or designed on the assumption that the intervention's effects are reversible and that a return to baseline will occur during the washout. So, to use kind of more simple terms, basically, it's like when you have 2 groups of people, the active treatment and the placebo control treatment, and after each one of these groups receives the treatment, and mind you, both of these groups do not know which treatment they are receiving because the study is double-blinded, they then switch the groups around after a washout phase, which is some time where you wait for the effects to die down, and then you basically, how to put this in simple terms, you change the active group to the placebo group and the placebo group to the active group, basically. That's kind of what it is. Now, in the context of Susan Shore's study, or the study for her tinnitus device, she provided some amazing insights and observations regarding the necessity of recovery to baseline during the washout phase to preserve an integrity of the crossover study design. Now, I'm going to read a quote to you directly from Susan Shore from her Q&A. A crossover study is the strongest possible design for a clinical trial, but only if there is a recovery or a return to baseline after the first treatment period during the washout phase. This worked well for the first pilot study, with 4 weeks of treatment. For that study, the majority of subjects' tinnitus had mostly returned to baseline after the 4-week washout. For the second study, we used 6 weeks of treatment and 6 weeks of washout before the crossover, as we expected that we would see a return to baseline after 6 weeks of washout. I'm going to add some of my own commentary so you guys understand. Basically, Susan Shore had a phase 1 study, or a phase 1 trial, where people used a earlier version of her tinnitus device, and after, before the crossover, before the active treatment switched to placebo and vice versa, they waited for 4 weeks for all of the effects, to go back to normal. Basically, for the tinnitus to go back up to its baseline. Yeah? Now, they had a longer usage of the device on the 6 weeks trial, which was the phase 2 trial, the more recent one, and they expected to see a similar effect. I'm going to continue Susan Shore's quote. We did not expect that the treatment would work so well after 6 weeks that there was no return to baseline during the washout. What we saw was that the treatment after 6 weeks was so long-lasting that we did not see any return. In fact, we saw a continued treatment effect up to 12 weeks and beyond. For that reason, the crossover did not work for the second study. This is called a crossover effect, and it means that the second treatment period was biased by the first period. A little quote from me. Basically, this means that the device worked so well that the crossover design didn't work because the people who were supposed to, have their tinnitus go back up actually did not have their tinnitus return to baseline. So their tinnitus decreased and continued decreasing into the next phase. I'm continuing the quote. When that happens, it is not statistically valid to analyze the second half of the study. That is why we focused our analysis only on the first period. So this is exactly why Susan Shore decided to not analyze the second period, or the phase 2 of the trial. Because the tinnitus device worked too well. So what does this mean for us? This means that Susan Shore's tinnitus device will potentially be able to induce permanent tinnitus suppression. That means that the effects you get from the device will be permanent. And I assume that the longer you use the device, the more effective it will be. Imagine not using the device for 6 weeks, but for 12 weeks, for example, and then maybe for 6 months. I believe that Susan Shore's device is the answer to noise-induced tinnitus, at least, and many other forms of tinnitus that are due to hyperactivity in the dorsal cochlear nucleus, which is most of them. And we will be able to see the effects very soon, as Susan Shore has most likely already submitted to the FDA. I would say that we can expect an FDA approval probably by the end of the spring, but we will have to see. So we don't really know, it's mostly speculation, but I can almost guarantee with absolute certainty that we will be able to use this device this year, hopefully. Oracle, the parent company of Susan Shore's device and research, is very well funded by many investors, and they have already registered their company in California. So I think that the device is going to be released first in California. So make sure that you contact your local audiologist office so that they are aware of this and that they can get their hands on one of these devices as soon as possible. Will you be able to use this device on your own without the intervention of an audiologist? I'm not sure. I think that Oracle's business plan is going to be something along the lines of a partnership with audiologists, which is something audiologists should really look forward to, as this can create a lot of profit for them. But that's a different topic. I'm going to try to get my hands on a couple of these devices, maybe a few of them, and travel around to maybe around the world to people who desperately need this device. Hopefully Oracle will provide me with the, well, I would need the software for this. So hopefully, even though I am not officially an audiologist, I hope that they will be able to allow me to help people around the world before it is approved in other countries. So peace, that's it for today. And if you have any questions, please ask in the comments, or you can join my Discord channel. The link is on my main page, or I will also provide a link in the description to it as well. All right, peace.